Hey, how's it going? I'm going to do a quick video here showing how I use AI and specifically language models. Now, this isn't meant to be a video where it's like, you should do this too. It's more an example of some of the tricks and tips that I've learned that I think are quite universal depending on what you want to do. And that could be anything. It could be writing something. It could be working on your own ideas. It could be trying to develop something or communicate with someone else. I use language models for a lot of different things, so I'll dive into some of the more general tasks that I complete. So let's have a look. So I've loaded up ChatGPT here, and I would say that I almost exclusively use ChatGPT at the moment in terms of a language model. I find that it's the most kind of flexible. I've probably learned to use it the most. Bing uses ChatGPT 4, so that's like a similar way of using it as well. There's a lot more coming out, Google Bard, Gemini, all of those things. But for the moment, let's concentrate on ChatGPT 4 and some of the new features that are available. And at this point, I will say that there is a big difference between the free version, 3.5, and ChatGPT 4. 3.5 is an older model. It's very fast and it's very good at specific tasks. It's got a great API. But if you're using it in a more general scenario, like the things I'm going to show you now, ChatGPT 4 is a much better solution, essentially. It's a paid solution. It's about $20 a month, but it's something that we should be looking at getting as like a sort of corporate license or something. It's kind of a thing to have access to. So we'll talk about more of that later. But let's dive in. So this is my kind of main window. I have lots of chats going on. A lot of times I will just like start a new chat for like a new thing that I'm talking about or developing or doing. So there's stuff in here for like work stuff, personal stuff, ideas for videos, ideas for developing some app thing that I was working on. Toddler bedtime rap was like a fun thing. Game learning, like basically anything. What I've started doing more recently is trying to kind of delineate some of these chats as like more of a topic that I'm going to continue working on. Because essentially each of these chats is like a separate thing and the AI doesn't know about the separate chats. Whereas if you've got one that's like ongoing about a certain topic, so like this interactive art thing that I've been working on, like I can go back through this whole thing and it knows about all of the chat that we've had up until that point. Another thing you can do is you can give it custom instructions. So I've given it some information about who I am, what I do, like really basic stuff, and then the way that I would like it to respond to me generally. That's helpful because like whatever new chat you start, it has that information, so it knows that it's got to be a context about you. It's not going in fresh. So what I would usually do is I would go in and, yeah, let's say we start a new chat. And we would say, I'm making a video. I'm making a video showing how we can use ChatGPT in our business. Now, out of the box, like a lot of people assume you ask ChatGPT to do things, it does them for you, done. And that's really not how it works. Like you've got to work with it. And what it has to work off is a thing called context. And context is all of the information that it's had up to that point. So in this scenario, it's got my information that I've given it, like kind of like custom data stuff. And then this is the only context I've got. So we need to build up a bit of context to use. Now, what I could do is go and take that context from another chat, which I probably would do. But seeing as I'm showing this version, what I'll do is I'll get it to ask us some questions and then we can answer them. So I'll say, can you ask me some questions to help you better do this task? So we're going to do that, and then it's going to come back with a load of questions. Here we go. So we've got quite a lot of questions, a lot of detail. So this is good because it gives us a lot of things to think about that maybe we wouldn't have thought about before. We don't have to answer all of them, and we can go through and we can do a list if we want. But what I like to do is use voice at this point, and there's various ways of doing that. On mobile, it's as simple as pressing the button because it just works on the mobile app. But I've got a Chrome plugin, which I think is called Save GPT, maybe? Maybe it's not that one. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. I'll look at it afterwards and check. There's a few that you can use. And it gives you this button, so I can start talking to it. Okay, thanks for those questions. Could you give me the questions one by one, and then I'll answer them one by one? Now, I've done that because if I'm answering it by voice, it's much easier to go through one by one than trying to answer and read out like a whole thing, and it'll get confused as well. So let's go with this. What's the primary message you want to convey in your video about GPT? Well, for this video, I want to show people how to use ChatGPT on a sort of more general level, not necessarily specific use cases, more as like how can they get the most out of it as a language model, how can they interact with it and such. The target audience is my colleagues, and those could be people from different departments, so especially people from content departments that might be writing content, as well as developers and production-oriented individuals that might not think of how to use a language model in their work, but could perhaps benefit from having it as a place to brainstorm ideas. There we go. So I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to give it any more stuff, but you can see that we're basically building this up. And if I kept doing it and I answered sort of most of the questions, I would end up with a very good like baseline to then do the tasks that I needed to do, as well as do some other tasks like other videos, other things, like you've got that built in there. What I'm going to show you now is a new feature they added fairly recently called chatbots. And this is where you can kind of again, front load all of this stuff. So I've got two up here. I've got Cooksey Delta and Cooksey Theta. And what these are custom versions of the ChatGPT model that I've kind of gone through this process with already, and I've done it like separately. So what we can do is we can go and chat to Cooksey Theta. And Cooksey Theta is like a version of me that knows about my work, the projects that I'm working on. It's all kind of like privatized, so the wider kind of no one else can see this. Like only people I link this to can see the data, and it's not trained on data that will go externally outside of this. It's very secure. So I can ask this some questions straight up. So I can say, "What's the R&D team working on?" And I could talk to it as well, but that was just like one of the suggestions that actually I put in there. So if people want to talk to it, they have some idea of what it can do. So it'll go through its knowledge. And what I've done is I've kind of done a bunch of conversations and then used those conversation transcripts as a kind of knowledge base to then work off later. Okay, so it's starting to write some things now. It knows about the projects I've been working on. I've given it access to some of our Confluence pages. It can just search things on the internet as well. Like that's always possible. But again, like this isn't publicly available. It's not training the model based on this. It's only training my version, which I can just delete at any time. So it's not like we're just putting information out there. So here we go. The swipe game, the soft skills prototype, dynamic skills-based learning. I'll need to update this as I go. Like it'll have like a snapshot of what I've been doing at the time, because that's what I've trained it on. But that's okay. It's just a case of like updating it as you go. What I'll do is I'll go into the behind the scenes of this and see how we can do that. So we can update it with some stuff. So what they've built here is you could do this before, but it was kind of like a custom way of doing it. It was a lot more complicated. And basically what they've done is they've given the chat interface. They've given you the chat interface to be able to like create chatbots essentially. So we could create a new one, or we could update this one. And here is where you'd feed in knowledge and information, images, text, websites, whatever, and get it to use that as its knowledge base. And you can also here like tell it how you want it to interact and how you want it to react either to you or to other people. And what I've done as well is in my custom data, I am telling whatever model that I chat with that I am Cooksey, whereas someone else interacting with this will not be Cooksey. They'll be a different person. So it kind of reacts differently to me than it will for like other people. And there's lots of these that people have made. I'll show you a couple. These are like some demo ones. ChatGPT Santa, Game Time, Negotiator, like these are all like really different versions of ChatGPT, all based on ChatGPT 4 that can do really specific stuff. And all of them can access the web. All of them can generate images, generate code, run code as well. So you can imagine how it quickly gets quite powerful if you've got like a specific thing that you want to do a lot of the time is building a little ChatGPT for yourself or for your team that has that knowledge base or has access to the functions and tasks that you would do like repeatedly, basically. So the last thing I'm going to show you is the mobile app, because I think the mobile app is super interesting. Let's have a look here. So the mobile app is the same, like it has access to all of the same chats and things. This is actually on my personal account, so it's slightly different. But the big feature of the mobile one is it's very good at voice, and they've introduced this kind of voice system where you can just talk to it like a sort of phone call, essentially. So I'm going to start a new voice chat, and we're just going to talk to it.
What would you like to discuss or learn about today?
Well, I'm actually making a video right now, so I'm demoing what you can do and how you're kind of listening to me and talking to me.
That sounds exciting. I'm here to help with your demonstration. If you have specific questions or topics you'd like me to talk about, feel free to ask. This could be anything from discussing AI and its applications to showing how I can assist with creative processes like video making.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, maybe you could give me like 2 tips for how best to like talk into a camera.
Absolutely. When talking into a camera, it's important to be engaging and clear. First, maintain eye contact with the camera lens. This creates a sense of connection with your audience as if you're speaking directly to them. Second, use clear and expressive speech. Speak at a moderate pace and articulate your words well. This makes your content more accessible and easier to follow. Remember, your tone and body language also contribute to the overall impact. Keep it natural and confident. How does that sound for your video?
That's pretty helpful. Yeah, I'd agree with all of that. So let's leave it there, and I'll chat to you later or something. I don't know. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, like I find this really a really useful way of getting ideas down. Like if I'm just thinking of an idea or just thinking of something, I generally kind of have this just on my desk, and then I'm like talking and thinking things through. And it's good to kind of like it's like having an imaginary thing that you talk to, but it's like actually talking back and giving you ideas, inspiration, and challenging you on your problems. And you've got to think of it. This is entirely customizable as well. Like based on the information that you're kind of putting into it in the first place, it's going to be different. But also even within a chat, like if you tell it to be more assertive or be more creative, like it's going to take that on board. So you've kind of got to use it in this kind of dynamic way and not assume that it's going to do things in like a certain way all of the time. Like it's there to be molded and there to be changed. So I hope that was useful. I'm here to answer questions, any thoughts, like especially if people have like a really like specific problem or thing that they want to solve with it. Yeah, that's it for now. Hope that was interesting and a little bit useful. Thanks.